Hi, come on in. Wait. Don't ruin it, Snickers. Don't ruin it. Snickers. Lay back. That's right. Trying to get a situation going here where I can pet a dog and a cat at the same time. I think we got it going here. Wait, let me turn the camera. Okay. There we go. Dog and a cat at the same time. Pretty amazing, huh? Yeah, bam. No situation ever called for a bam less than that one did. I was told to be climate science discussion. Well, did you read my blog today? Groundbreaking. The cat is Zoe. Oops, sorry, Snickers is messing with my screen here. Hold on, Snickers, what are you doing? Sorry. It's chaos here, just like the White House. That's right, Zoe and Snickers. So, are they old? They're middle-aged. Yeah, they're best buds. Am I going to do yeah, I wrote the climate science Dilbert. I've already submitted that one. I don't know what she weighs. Maybe 20 pounds. All right, yes. Now that we have defeated the Twitter, the Twitter shadow ban, let's talk about climate change. So, you may know, if you've been following me at all on my blog, that I talk about something called the high ground maneuver. And it's where you win an argument by taking it to the high ground. So the low ground would be arguing about the details, and the high ground is bringing it to some level where it's just impossible to disagree. So I've been trying to do that with the climate change debate, and you'll see that in more detail in my blog that I wrote today. But the idea is that for some reason, the world has ignored that the last part of the climate disaster equation is not science. The last part is actually an economic model, because the science can say things will change by this much, or the temperature will go up this much, and this will have this much effect on rainfall and sea level and stuff like that. So the scientists can do all that stuff, and it's a separate argument whether they're doing it correctly, or if, why don't they all agree on the way to do it. But let's say that part is science at least, and you'd expect it to get better, even if it's not perfect already. But then there's the so what part of it. And the so what part is done by economists, or at least should be, because all you're trying to do is figure out what's it going to cost. Now, if you're saying, I know you're going to be quick to say, well, it's really going to be a price in human life and suffering. But the economist in me says you can fix all of that with enough money. So it's always a money question. If you don't want to spend it on saving people's lives, it's not really, I think the problem is the government or money. So I think I'd like to see a scorecard. Sorry, I'm trying to read your comments and think at the same time. It's way too much to do. I'd love to see a scorecard of economists' long-term economic models, because I think it would make climate science models look reliable. As I said in the blog, I used to do financial projections for a living. And I would just make them come out in whatever way my boss needed them to come out, because that was my job. And there were enough assumptions that you could always do that. So I have I think less trust in economic models and financial models than most people. And so I think anyway. So what I'm trying to get at is the high ground. The high ground argument with climate science is that you need to break it up into its chunks. You can look at the basic science and say, okay, that looks pretty good. And then you can look at the measurements, and that's a separate discussion. And then you can look at the climate models. Now you got to ask yourself, if they're trying to persuade the world, and save us all, why are there so many models? They should take a lesson from Donald Trump. You know what Donald Trump does not say about the border? He doesn't say, well, it'll be a variety of solutions for securing the border. Some of them might involve high-tech drones, and some places wire fences, and then other places water barriers, but some places will have a wall. That's what he doesn't do. You know what he says? It's going to be a wall, big, beautiful wall, because your head can wrap around that. So he makes his messages in the size that people can consume them. If you make your message bigger than people can consume, you shouldn't really expect much good to come from that. And I think that's the science problem. So finishing that thought. So if you divide the climate science argument into the basic science, and then the collection of the measurements, and then the climate models, projections, they all have a different degree of credibility. But at the end of all that, there's another one that people keep forgetting, which is that there's an economic model at the end of it, which is the so what. Is it more good or bad? And I don't know the answer to that, so I'm not telling you that it's not bad. I'm just telling you that there's absolutely no reliable information to suggest it is. And then the economist in me, the bad economist in me, says that if you don't know if something's going to be a disaster, and it's probably a ways off, it could be 20 years before anything super bad happens, that you probably want to spend your money on things that are saving a lot of lives immediately, such as health-related stuff and safety nets and whatnot. So in terms of where to allocate your money, if you can't do everything right away, I think climate change is the one that you do push off. So when you look at Trump's budget, which supposes there will be no money for climate science stuff, I guess, that seems not like climate denial. That seems like setting priorities exactly the way I would. So climate science is a big unknown, especially the economic part of it, which is the important part. So he pushes it off, because the further you push it off, the more you'll know. And the more you know, and the better the technologies you've developed between now and then, it just seems like it's a better bet to push it off as far as you can and deal with the immediate suffering of people. Trump's weekly address, I didn't see it. I saw Lomborg make his economic argument, and I think he was on one of Bill Maher's shows. I can't remember if it was Real Time or the one before that. And there was this amazing cognitive dissonance thing that happened. If I'm thinking of the right person, I think I am. That Lomborg said, yeah, the science is good, temperatures are going up, but we don't know the economic outcome of that. And then Bill Maher said something to the effect of, why are you denying the science? And I was just shaking my head, and I thought, well, that's exactly what didn't happen there, which is weird, because Bill Maher, whatever you think of his show or his politics, is generally making a legitimate attempt to be even-handed and be rational. But he actually couldn't hear Lomborg. That was the funny part. There was this cognitive dissonance sort of bubble that just wrapped over him. And even though Lomborg was saying, I'm talking about the economics of it. That part is not science, that's economics. Bill was still hearing something about science, which is just an entirely different topic. And for years, I've been waiting for people to sort that out because I thought Lomborg did a good job, but he didn't do a good job persuading. In other words, he didn't do what I'm trying to do, which is to make a super clear distinction between the economics and the science and judge them separately. So I think you're going to see more of that in the news off. Adam's on. Thanks, I beat the news. How long will it be before I have better ratings on Periscope than Rachel Maddow? Anybody have any other questions about the news? Can hypnosis cure alcoholism? The answer is probably not. A show on HBO. That seems like a lot of work. The Merkel handshake. Yeah, I saw he did his classic Trump handshake where he grabs you and he pulls you close to you and tries to tower over you a little bit. Oh, there was no handshake? Yeah, no, there's a handshake at the door, wasn't there? I thought I saw a picture of it. So I was watching just minutes ago, I was watching Smirkanish on CNN, and I shit you not, the first part of his show was talking about a hypothetical situation that he acknowledges would not happen. But in this hypothetical situation, President Obama sues Trump for saying that Obama wiretapped Trump Tower. And I thought, really? That's sort of the important news, is thinking about a hypothetical? Like, have we gone beyond fake news and we're into hypothetical news? I can't tell, is that better or worse than fake news? Well, suppose there's a Loch Ness Monster, and suppose that Loch Ness Monster got out of the loch and started swimming toward the United States with bad intent. Would the Supreme Court step in, or would that be more of a states' rights issue? I mean, it was the most ridiculous thing. Trump would sue if the table was turned around. Probably not as an ex-president. I don't think he would. Yeah, I heard that Rand Paul brought the art of the deal to Congress. I think Rand Paul's starting to get some game. I'd be surprised if he hasn't studied persuasion since the primaries. Because, he also did that thing where he brought camera crew around following him, where he was looking for a copy of the Obamacare bill. Do you remember that? He walked the halls of the Congress knocking on doors. He brought a camera crew with him, just trying to find a copy of the bill, because he was complaining that it was secret. Yeah, and the thing is that all that mattered is that he got coverage. So he's learning now that dealing with people's emotional state is how to get things done. Jeff Sessions saying weed is only slightly worse than heroin. Is that a new or an old quote? I'm assuming that's an old quote. How do you persuade your girlfriend that she's not dying from cancer, blah, blah, blah? That one might require professional help. But I'll tell you what I've done in those situations is I like to remind people all the times they thought those things before, and were wrong. And then I say with great confidence that I don't have any. I don't have any confidence, but I say it like I do. That the overwhelming majority of the times this situation turns out to be nothing, which is generally true. yeah, you can't expect government officials to be pro-drug, right? So I think the best case for the federal government is to make it a state's issue. At least, get one level of government out of it. When are you going to be able to walk in a store and buy weed in California? Well, if you've got a medical card, you can now. I don't know, 3 years maybe? 2018 maybe? Thoughts on intelligence versus memory? Well, they're related, but I'm not sure I have a deep thought on that. It would be hard to be intelligent without some minimum amount of memory, but that's sort of obvious. Is weed really good for PTSD? I don't know if it is, but I hear that psychedelics are practically a miracle cure for PTSD. I'm not recommending it. I'm just passing along things I've heard. Yeah, MDMA specifically. Do I have a good method for remembering names? I'm terrible at remembering names, but I'll tell you the methods that I know people use, and it works. One of my friends groups all his friends, everybody knows, by common names. So he imagines all the people named Kathy standing next to each other. So all the Kathys are in one category in his head, and so on. Another good trick is when you're first introduced, you say something about the name, or, sometimes I'll say, oh, like if somebody says, my name is Sarah, I'll say, oh, that was one of my favorite names. I named my cat Sarah. And then I'll just always remember it because I said something about it. So sometimes I'll try to, and sometimes I ask people to spell their name, just so I'll spend a little more time on it and really understand how they're saying it. Because have you ever noticed that when people pronounce their name, and I don't have a good ear for music or language or anything, so when anybody who was not born in this country tells me their name, it always sounds like this. I'll say, hey, how's it going? What's your name again? And they'll say, and I'll say, can you pronounce that again? And I'll swear it'll be different every time they say it. Beep. I'll be, one more time. I told you. And I'll be like, what? Yeah, it doesn't matter who you're talking to. My brain is so tuned to standard, tiny little names like Tom and Bill, that as soon as you get 3 syllables in there, I'm done for. Oh, I just got a message. Christina's on her way. And that means... and that means I'm going to sign off. All right. Good talking to you. Bye. I love you all too.